My son suddenly shouted, not quietly, not in private, but loud enough for the whole street to hear. "You live in this hole because you're a beggar." His words cut through the air like a slap. People stopped walking. Neighbors turned their heads, and in that silence I felt something inside me finally give up. He didn't stop after one sentence. He pointed toward my small house with disgust. "This place suits you," he said proudly. "This is all you deserve." His wife stood beside him, smiling as if this was entertainment. No one interrupted him. No one told him to stop. And I realized humiliation hurts most when it comes from your own child. I opened my mouth to speak. Then I closed it again, because I saw something worse than anger in his eyes. Shame. Not shame for what he said, but shame for being related to me. That was the moment I understood. I had already lost him long ago. Memories rushed into my mind without warning. Skipping meals so he could eat properly. Wearing the same clothes for years so he could have new ones. Working when my body begged for rest. Every sacrifice replayed itself. And now, after all of it, I was standing there, being called a beggar. Then he crossed his arms and said, "People only tolerate you because you're my mother." That sentence landed heavier than all the others. Something ended right there. Not love, not pain, but expectation. I stopped hoping he would ever understand me. I lived quietly by choice. No luxury. No display of power. I never talked about my work. I never defended myself. I believed dignity didn't need explanation. But silence, I learned, is often mistaken for weakness. A few days later, an official envelope arrived. Heavy paper, formal language, an invitation to a ceremony at the governor's office. My son received one too. He glanced at my name and laughed. "There's no way you belong there," he said. I folded the invitation and said nothing. The hall was grand and bright. Officials, cameras, important guests everywhere. I walked in slowly. Simple clothes. Calm posture. I took a seat near the front. My son noticed me for a second, then looked away, embarrassed. He leaned toward his wife and whispered. They laughed quietly. "She even showed up here," he said. I heard every word clearly, but I didn't react. I didn't move. Because for the first time in my life, I knew the truth would speak for me. The governor stepped to the microphone. The room slowly quieted. "I want to introduce someone very special today," he said. People leaned forward in their seats. My son looked bored, distracted, scrolling his phone, unaware that the next sentence would change everything. "The woman sitting beside me," the governor said clearly, "is my senior advisor." He gestured toward me. The room gasped. Whispers spread instantly. My son froze. His phone slipped from his hand and hit the floor. "She helped shape policies that changed thousands of lives," the governor continued. "She chose service over recognition. She never asked for attention." I slowly lifted my head. My son's face had gone pale. For the first time, he was looking at me with fear instead of shame. He whispered softly, "Mom." His voice trembled. That word sounded unfamiliar now. Heavy, late. He said it when embarrassment finally turned into respect. But respect that arrives late doesn't heal old wounds. I stood up calmly. No anger, no loud accusations. I said, "You called me a beggar. You judge my worth by my house. But you never once asked who I really was." I let each word hang in the air. Everyone in the room felt the weight of them. Even my son looked at me differently, though he still struggled to understand. I realized that sometimes silence speaks louder than shouting. The governor's gaze was steady. The room became completely quiet. Some guests whispered to each other. The power dynamics had shifted in seconds. My son, who had thought himself superior, now hesitated to speak. He could no longer dismiss me. I finally felt a quiet victory rising in my chest. This was the moment where respect began to replace arrogance. He opened his mouth to say something, but no words came. For the first time, I saw regret in his eyes. His wife looked at me in shock, realizing she had been laughing at the wrong person. The air felt heavy, charged with tension. My son's bravado had vanished. It was a rare, humbling moment. I let him feel it fully. No interruptions, no explanations, just reality. I realized that strength does not need to be loud. Sometimes calm and composure speak louder than anger. I remained seated gracefully, letting the silence do the work. The governor continued introducing me, praising my contributions to society. Every word reinforced my presence, my dignity, my worth, and slowly my son's expression changed from disbelief to shame. He finally understood that humility can be a quiet kind of power. I looked around the hall, noticing all the important figures nodding at me. The room that once seemed so intimidating now felt like a stage for truth. I realized that life's lessons are not taught. By shouting, they are shown through actions. My son's arrogance had been visible for everyone to see. Now the truth of who I was equally undeniable. It was a lesson he would carry for the rest of his life. Finally, he whispered, almost too softly to hear, "Mom." This time there was a tone of recognition, a hint of apology, but I knew it came too late to erase the pain of the past. I simply nodded, letting him understand that respect must be earned, and humility once lost cannot be forced. Some lessons he would have to learn on his own. The governor turned to the audience. He said, "This woman has shaped policies that have changed thousands of lives. She did it quietly, without recognition, without reward." I felt the satisfaction of justice, silent but undeniable. Even my son could not ignore the truth now. I finally realized the full circle of validation, not from him, not from family, but from the world that had once ignored me. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight lift from my shoulders. I had never needed his approval. I had spent years giving, sacrificing, and standing strong in silence. Today the world saw my worth. Today my dignity was restored, and the small house I lived in suddenly felt like a palace. Because I carried respect and power within me, I still live in my modest home, not because I need to prove anything to anyone, but because dignity, self-respect, and character cannot be bought. And anyone who looks down on their own mother will never truly rise, no matter how much wealth or status they have. True power comes from love, humility, and quiet resilience, and that is something no one can take away.